Hey, Podcast America. Welcome to episode 14 of the Enlightened Neanderthals podcast, brought to you by Training Northwest. And before we get into show notes, we're once again going to talk about Allegiance holsters. All of my concealed carry holsters come from Allegiance, and they make outside the waistband as well. And most importantly of all, for those of you who are not gun guys, everybody should be carrying a first aid kit. And they have ready-made, vacuum-packed first aid kits on their website. You don't need to order it with the tactical pouch it goes in. You can just order the insert. You should have one in your glove box. You should have one in the backpack you take to work. You should have one in your kitchen drawer. You should have them all around you, anywhere you are, everywhere you are.
And know how to use them.
Yeah, that's the second part, is you do need to know how to use all the stuff inside of there.
Tobin, this sounds like
that's where Training Northwest comes in, because we don't have it right now, but we are working on getting our first. I just had a unofficial meeting with a friend who is probably going to take lead on first aid training for us. So big things to come in the future. And show notes, Mike. What's
I think these show notes should go over to Jordan. This was his recommendation.
Right. Yeah. Hey, we read The Obstacle is the Way on this one by Ryan Holiday. He's got a few different books out that are similar to this. So if you guys enjoyed this book, if you guys grabbed it and checked it out, he's got more in the pipe. I liked it. I got a lot out of the book. I feel good about it. It kind of makes me happy and when I feel kind of dark. And yeah.
All right, guys, enjoy the episode. All right, and we're live. So we were talking about a couple fun things here. We're talking about solar generators, which are basically a big battery pack that come with the inverter and everything you need sort of pre-installed. And you could charge it off your wall, but you can also buy them with a solar panel. And then we got into archery, and at some point we realized we should probably just push record, or we're going to be here talking for the next 3-4 hours and then be like, oh, shit, we didn't record anything.
Yeah. The solar panel that I seen that I'm interested in getting, I think it's like 600 and something, and it has a battery pack.
600 watt or
no,
$600?
I think it's like $600 or $700, maybe $800, I don't know. But it's like a flexible material, so like the solar panel itself is actually flexible, so you can put it and hook it up to your backpack and have it charging as you're moving from camp to camp. And keep it that way.
That's probably just for charging like an iPhone or something.
It's for charging, radios or whatever you need to. That's like relatively small. I don't know how many milliamp hour the battery is, but it's not. Yeah, it's certainly not for charging like anything massive. But I mean, for headlamps and small electronics, it would work.
Yeah, and with the nice weather coming, I just want to be able to take our recording equipment down to the river and sit outside and grill something and sit on the river. And at some point, we'll record a couple of episodes right there on the river.
Yeah, water talk.
Yeah, there you go.
Yep. Nice. Yeah, that'll be super nice to be able to go out and like actually like get out of the norm.
Get off the mats and onto a rock by the river.
Yeah. Maybe throw a line in.
Yeah,
just kind of sit there and. Bullshit and a fishing talk.
Are there crawdads in that? Probably.
I don't think so.
I think it's too high.
I was gonna say I don't think much. The one problem we have with where that property is we're above the fish ladder.
Yeah.
So not much makes it up to us.
Except fish, technically.
Up
that ladder.
They have a ladder, but we don't see too many fish up.
Yeah.
We should try seeding some crawdads into the river.
This is how we get charged with intrusive species taking over.
Ruining a fucking
ecosystem. Oh, shit. All right. Well, so today we're here to talk about the book, The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. And let me see here. Open to the copyright page. I forgot to look at this beforehand. Jordan, this is your choice. You're supposed to know.
Yeah,
all this
book.
Who published it, Jordan?
Lion House.
Published by Penguin Group.
That's what I meant.
Penguins, lions, kind of.
Animal House.
They all live in
all spirit animals.
Well, so this book actually was recommended to me, and I'm going to name drop a little bit here, but it was recommended to me by shit, I can't.
Name drop, huh?
Yeah, yeah, that really worked out for me, didn't it? Jesus Christ. It was a wrestling coach that told me about it, and he was the 2000 Olympic gold medalist.
Oh wow!
So if you guys want to know who he's talking about, go ahead and Google 2000.
Brandon Slay is his name. I can't believe I spaced out. It's every time they hit this fucking
The mics
this
go
button, I blank out and I get nervous and I feel like I'm in front of a stage in front of about 12 people.
You guys listening
And
don't know this. Jordan's actually
me.
a super genius.
Yeah.
It's just that when we hit record, his mind goes completely blank.
Yeah. That's what's happening. Anyway, yeah. So the book was recommended, and I took about a year before I went and picked it up, and then I just really enjoyed it. It's a little self-help kind of, but at the same time, it has good stories, and a lot of the ways I like to live life and like just think about life is through simple like little stories or little sayings, you know, and just like the obstacle is the way is full of them.
Yeah.
You know, so I enjoy that. It's kind of how, and I don't even know what you call that. What do you call those when they're like little
idioms? But I don't know. I might be using the wrong word.
Like not a proverb, but a
saying.
But the proverbs, like I mean, Tyler did it. Tyler Stanaway on the Compassionate Viking. He did something on like proverbs, right? Or was it proverbs or was it?
I don't know.
I
know it wasn't pronouns.
No, it was about a Vikings like.
Oh, was that when he read through the whatever? God, I can't remember the name of their book.
It was like 26 different things or something like. Anyway,
yeah, Proverbs.
Yeah. So anyway,
it's not the book of the Bible called Proverbs, but Proverbs is a noun. Like you can use it.
Yeah. Anyway, well, so I just like that. Growing up in wrestling, there was a lot of that shit. Just like how to be a better person, and how to be like the way you want to be, and being stoic and certain things. So this is full of that, and I enjoyed it. I don't know what you guys think. This is actually the first time I've recommended a book, and I'm sitting with people that have read it.
They actually read it.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, I like it. And obviously the title, The Obstacle is the Way, you guys can kind of guess what the book's about. But in a nutshell, it's about, taking, whatever happens in your life that is a hindrance and figuring out how to make it work to your advantage, which is a great message. And it's something I've been hitting on a lot just in the last couple of years, because when the COVID lockdowns happened and small businesses were being crushed, at first I was kind of angry about it. And then I realized that what's happening is opportunity. Every small business that voluntarily closes its doors just opened an opportunity for someone else who's got the courage to go out and say, you know what, fuck this. I am going to open. I'm going to make something happen. And Training Northwest is literally that. Like I saw opportunity. If you choose to just roll over it, like the economy's crashing, fuck it, I guess we'll just go home and cry. No, it right now is the time to start a business, because you're going to, if I can run a business in this economy, maybe the economy turns around or maybe it crashes completely and then it doesn't matter. Yeah. But if I can run a business in this economy, imagine where I'll be in
a booming one
8 years when it comes back around.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that the message that in every dilemma or every negative thing that you think, like, rather than looking at something that happens to you as a negative, try to step back from it, take a breath, and go, okay, what's a different angle to look at this, and how do I make advantage out of this?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of positive messages in that, and yeah, exactly what you're saying. When different perspective can really recharge your batteries. I've noticed in my life with like, just anything that, like, how when a friend is in some shit, and they're like, I don't know what to do, and then you're like, well, it's simple, like, do it like this.
Yeah,
I'm not in his shoes, so I can look at it from the aspect of not being necessarily emotionally involved.
I was just going to say, you're not emotionally invested in it, and that's one of the things that, probably one of the tenets of stoicism is to remove that emotional investment, take a step back and detach yourself and look at it. You look at your problem as an outsider.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you don't get frozen. You can make moves that make sense based on the situation.
Yeah.
And not having the attachment of your emotions is pretty important. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, obviously, you need to be emotional. You want to be emotional, right? But in certain instances, it helps a lot to not have to look through that window.
Yeah.
Yep. And also just the notion that failure is okay. And that's something that I didn't learn that lesson probably until I was in my 30s. Really, it was when I went through the electrical apprenticeship, because every day as an electrician, you have all these small little failures where your measurements are off by 3/8 of an inch, or the wire, you've been pulling a 200-foot wire pull and you end up 6 feet or 6 inches short. And you're like, shit, we got to pull this all out, re-roll it and start all over again. And those in the bigger scope of things, you forget all about that night, but you just have to realize that you're going to fuck some stuff up and you're going to have to redo it. And then each time you'll learn that lesson, like that sucked, pulling that wire back. Like we pulled out most of you guys aren't going to know what I'm talking about, but we pulled 750 KC mil medium voltage cable. This stuff weighed like 9 pounds a foot, big, thick, Jesus. Probably 3.5 inch diameter cables. We pulled them 1,000 feet in and got it stuck and had to pull it back out and re-roll it, 4 cables, each with their own individual steel reel. We had to pull 1,000 feet back out. It took 2 days to pull it back out and re-roll it onto its reels so that we could figure out what was going on inside the conduit that it got stuck in. And so just fighting through shit like that and there's a process here.
Yeah.
It didn't work, so now we're resetting and understanding and having a little bit of patience rather than wanting to just cram it home. Hey, option A didn't work out for us. Our first plan failed. So now we've got to go through this process of resetting so that we can come up with a plan B. And I think that's a pretty important life lesson.
Well, yeah, and that's the beauty of construction, really, is because it's like, you know what? This has to happen.
Yeah.
There's no other we are getting paid to make this happen.
Yeah.
So guess what? It's gonna fucking happen.
Yep.
Whether we have to pull it back out, remake some conduit runs, or whatever it ends up being, we have to find that there's an obstacle and we need to find a way through it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And oftentimes it's just doing the hard thing is the right thing, because nobody wants to pull that shit back out and go, okay, well, we got to pull this back out, as opposed to like get a bigger tugger.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes it's like, just go, like you said, not having the patience and not having the outside perspective of like, hey, like we don't have to just pull harder. Maybe we need to pull it back and do the hard thing, which is
take a delay in the project, possibly. But, like Jordan said, one way or another, this has to get done, and we can't miracle it into place. So the fact that plan A failed means now we got to come up with plan B, and there's no sense crying about it. Just time to reset and go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that carries through this entire book, that whole notion of just making things happen in different perspectives. And I don't know. I found it useful in a lot of different things. And Ryan Holiday has a way of like saying things that simplifies and sounds elegant. And I am fascinated by that, because that is something that I want to be able to do, is like have clear, concise communication and actually be able to like communicate in that kind of way. So listening to that book or reading that book and his other books as well, you find more and more of it, so yeah.
Mike, you're awful quiet today.
He didn't.
I was just gonna say, did you read the book?
He didn't read this book.
I read the book, but I get a completely different understanding from reading this book. To me, this isn't about self-help. This isn't about like how you do better in this world. I think stoicism is interesting because you start to see people of an older time understand how the world really works. And I think this type of literature and what they're saying really plugs into the metaphysics of the world we live in. Like, what this is a base level programming in the natural biological world that we live in. I know that sounds kind of heady and stuff, but
you're absolutely right, though. I mean, we're hitting it from a very like surface level right now, but at the core of what they're saying, it is based on attitude and effort and what you can put into life and how life is.
No, I mean, like, this is evolution. The theory of evolution is this book in certain ways. Like, so
you got a problem that you need to get up onto the beach, so over generations you sprout legs.
Kind of, yes, exactly. And these are natural laws that plug into our life in how physical reality happens. And it's so much bigger than just you have a problem in front of you and you need to address it, and that will give you a better life, or it's not an opportunity. Because, I mean, take example, there was a South American type of ground mouse, right? And it lived in the desert, and it was kind of a blackish thing. It got moved, and it started progressing out of the grasslands, moving towards the desert a bit more. And then once it started roaming to this new area, a certain particular hawk started to hunt these mice, right? And these mice were kind of a blackish color. And in the sands of the desert, they stood out extremely. Mm-hmm. So over time, these mice started to change genetically, and they evolved to have lighter hair. Right? And that lighter hair kept that blood lineage going because they weren't seen by the hawks. They weren't a black dot on a white sandy beach, right? Or a white sandy desert. And so if you kind of take that same principle and apply it, I mean, the obstacle is the way, is what evolution itself is. I mean, evolution is a couple different processes. It's mutation, right? You can have evolution through mutation, and then you also get evolution through not only selective breeding, but environmental problems, like the environment around you, the predators, the environment of the weather, the food that's around you. Those things will influence how you grow and what you become. And this book hits that in a very base level principle way, I think, that when most people see a problem and they're like, oh my God, I need to just push this out of my mind, tuck and fold. I don't want to deal with this. Those are the people or the animals in history that die. What evolution is people continuing to fight, and those strongest of strongest living, and their genes press on. This book is exactly that. It is saying that in life there will be problems, and it is your not only job, duty, and benefit to solve this, but having these problems is the only way to make you better. If there wasn't an asteroid here, that took out the dinosaurs, we wouldn't be here. That problem, something that's so shitty as an asteroid wiping out almost all the animals on life, created new life for us to evolve and become humans, right? So this book, I mean, you can say it's about bettering your life, but to me, it just hits on fundamental, like,
principles of life.
Order, like programming of the matrix. Like, if existing was a program, this theory, I think, is one of the base levels of programming. It involves animals, it involves mind, it involves technology, intellect. They gave a million examples about problems. Steve Jobs one, and how he solved it and made it better and better. This, you can macro. You can take it as small as something as getting fired from work, or you can take it as big as something as asteroid hitting the world and us changing, or a famine, or a disease, or anything that's a problem. It's also opportunity, and that's chaos, that's life, that's evolution. Things will happen, things will continue. It's just
no matter what, things are going to continue. So just understand that and be ready to deal with it.
So for me, I didn't read this as kind of like a self-help as to like how to be better when there's a problem presented and know that you can achieve and there might be some opportunity, it's like, that's just life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Life is supposed to be problems. The minute you don't have a problem in an animal environment, you don't have evolution. Like some of the dinosaurs, like for hundreds of millions of years, they've stayed the same. Sharks have stayed the same. But I guarantee you, if dolphins started growing little fingers and hands and they could hold sharp little coral or knives and they're stabbing sharks left and right, well, that's going to put on some evolutionary function for these sharks to figure out how to go.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's just, this is a beginning.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And for me, like, I really enjoyed that. That's how I like to think about a lot of shit. Because it is so multifaceted.
The scope is huge.
The scope is big, and you can kind of like look at simple ideas that can, expand into pretty heavy ones.
Yeah.
So and he gives, example after example of it.
Yeah.
So that is something that I enjoy about this a lot. What do you actually think about the book? Did you like it?
Yeah, it was a good, I liked it. It was a very good book. Yeah. And they give a lot of different, and so one, it hits on that factor, but then like micro, macro, you take it to the micro level of individual experiences, and they give a lot of references. And I thought the Lincoln one was very good one about someone who had depression and had a challenging life. But maybe because of those challenges, he was the perfect person for this job and stuff. And so sometimes you can have a life of shit and problems constantly happening, and you think, oh, poor me, I live this crappy life. But in actuality, all those problems are making you ready for this moment. It's giving you kind of an armor to withstand these certain things. And that's something I found in MMA and fighting when I was younger, was just what it meant to grind, just to continue doing on. Maybe it's not fun, you don't feel good, you don't feel bad, you just know that something has to happen. And that grind to just endure and go on and on and on. I feel it kind of carries over in some of this book, that it's your purpose, it's your point. You have to do things. There's going to be tough times and problems happen, and that creates opportunity. And then opportunity is going to be good, but good times don't last forever. You're going to have bad times. So the important thing is, like that evolution, just to continue to grind. You just keep going. And there are certain morals and stories.
Perseverance. A lot of the young guys at the gym have asked, they're like, how are you in such good shape? Well, persevere. It's literally a lifetime grind of multiple times every week, getting out in the gym or in the garage and getting sweaty and not worrying about what I'm going to gain in the next 10 days, but just more establishing like this long track record of perseverance and grinding away. And at some point you look at yourself and you go, oh, it did work.
Change has happened.
Yeah. And I also it is related. For whatever reason, the Social Security Department has my home of record address as my parents' address. So my Social Security statement goes to my parents' house every year. And my mom called me, I think it was last year, and she's like, I accidentally opened your Social Security whatever thing that comes every year. She's like, did you realize you've been employed since you were 15 years old with no break? Like, huh. Yeah, I don't have a college degree. I have a high school diploma from a public school and a journeyman electrician's license. And I've done pretty goddamn well for myself.
Fuck yeah.
And it's because I've just been persevering and grinding and just working. I am always working on something. I say I have 2.5 jobs right now, but that's the way I've always been. I've never been a 40-hour a week and then go put my feet up and enjoy the breeze type. I'm always grinding away. My brain is always going, my body's always going, and I'm always scratching away at something. And sometimes it doesn't work out. Sometimes I'm like, you know what, fuck it. It's just time to let this one go and move on to the next thing. But there's always something that I'm scratching away at.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's something I've enjoyed about you in like the time I've known you. obviously at first it was like, oh, here's a boss.
Super handsome guy.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it was. It was like, look at this fucking retard, and he's really making stuff work for himself. No, it was just, you know, you were kind of at the upper echelon of what we're doing at work, and then outside of work, when we got to know each other, you were coming in here and you were learning a new skill, right? And because a lot of times people come to jiu-jitsu or they talk about jiu-jitsu or just anything new, and they dabble for a few months and then they're out.
Yeah. It's humility.
It's yeah. But you pushed through that, and then I remember we went out and did shooting. Right, we were all kind of getting into guns and stuff. Like, and not you, obviously, you'd been into it, but I was getting into guns, and you took a few of us out and you showed us some shooting stuff, and then you were like, you know what, I think I want to make something of this.
Yeah.
And now here, 2 years later, where we sitting, you know, I'm wearing your fucking Training Northwest shirt, and you got a company that you're making shit happen, and it's growing and getting bigger, and you're finding, you know, you're establishing your footprint. So for me, watching you build that has been really kind of cool. And, you know, like I've said, I feel like because I've been close to it and seen it, I find like somewhat ownership, and I want to see it thrive, because it's just like, it's like, this is so cool. And this is, the energy is so positive around it that I want to be a part of it, you know? Yep.
It's the same with the gym too. Like,
yeah.
I was sitting on the toilet in Greg's gym downstairs, and I was looking around at how nice, because Jenny remodeled the bathroom, and I was like, God, she did a really nice job. And I was like, man, think about what this gym was a year ago and what it looks like today. And they're not even done with the full remodel. Yeah. And it's just scratching away little by little. And I think Greg says, like, for the first 8 years, this was basically a hobby. And it made no money. It cost him money. Yeah. And then at some point, like, a bad thing happened in his life. He was fired from his job, and rather than go home and cry in his Cheerios, he took advantage, and now he has this wildly successful podcast. His gym has grown by 100%, and he, rather than take the money and buy a yacht, he rolled all the money back into the gym, expand, you know what I mean? And so it's like this big snowball.
Yeah. Being able to pivot and punch back.
Exactly.
You know, when life is throwing punches at you, you be able to pivot and punch back, and that's exactly what I've seen people do.
And not give up in those, you know, the first 8 years when it was costing money. It would have been pretty easy to say, you know what, fuck it. I just need to focus on my family and working some overtime. But again, perseverance, common theme here, to just stick with it, keep going. And along the lines of like, hey, the day we went out shooting with the guys from work, and I was like, all right, I'm going to show you guys some stuff. And then really the light bulb came on for Training Northwest when we were locked down in spring of 2020, and I needed something. I was like, God, I'm bored. I need something to do. And the rifle range was open. So I thought, okay, I'll go sign up for a rifle range. And when I did the safety class, only 2 out of 20 people in the room had ever fired a gun before in their life. And so everybody was kind of standing there going, well, we joined the range hoping someone would show us what to do. And that was when I was like, oh, shit. There's a huge deficit of, you know, these sort of, it's like the Boy Scout type skills that your dad used to take you out in the woods and teach you. Yeah. That people are growing up in suburbia now, and they don't get that. So that is where Training Northwest came from. And the first year, I lost money. I'll probably lose money this year, but that's okay.
And the third year, you're going to roll the money that you make back into it.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
That's the other thing. The reason I always lose money is because there is so much infrastructure to build out there that it's never going to end. So there's a reason I still have a day job, which is I have to pay my bills and buy food. Yeah. And Training Northwest is just all that money just rolls right over into like, shit, we got to get a dirt contractor out here. And people think like, oh, a business owner, you're rich.
Remind me after. We'll talk offline about that.
Well, but even there, it's like, okay, I'm talking about a dirt contractor. Somewhere out there is somebody who's like, I should just buy a bulldozer and go talk to that guy and be like, you know what, man, I'm thinking about taking out a loan and buying a bulldozer, and I'd love to be your dirt, like, fucking done. Yeah, I'll pay you cash when I make enough to hire you to come out and do it.
That's through building businesses and different things that I've watched. You know, I've done a little bit. I've dabbled in like the fencing stuff. Like I had somebody come out to my property and like asked them for a fence, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we'll do it." And then it was going to be like $16,000 for a chain link fence, and I was like, "You have got to be kidding me!" So that's exactly what I started doing. I was like, I can build a fence, and if anybody needs a fence that's listening.
Well, that goes, we've talked about this before, but growing up, there was this attitude that if you don't go get this fancy college degree, you're never going to be able to make money. But the reality is, look at all the shit you pay for that you just need or want. And the guys who
can make it happen.
Exactly. The guys who are willing to buy a flatbed truck and throw a bunch of lawnmowers and weed eaters in it and drive around knocking on doors in suburban neighborhoods, they do pretty fucking well.
Well, that's the thing. Anything you see in this world is manual labor, whether it's a fantastic house, a building, a car, an invention that's an electronic.
Upkeep.
Upkeep. It all takes manual labor.
Yeah, and that's it's kind of funny. I watched a drone pressure washing a roof and the siding of the house the other day.
God damn it, just shot that all the shit.
But I mean, I know
you got a fucking Roomba drone that goes up and sprays the moss.
Somebody's
off
doing
roof.
that. I mean, the fact of the matter is, we have somebody that we train with here that he started a company and that's what he does.
Yeah,
and he's looking to hire more people. Like he's just grinding. He's making it happen, Jack.
Yeah,
and he's
is that what Jack does?
Yeah, okay. He started a company and he that's what he does. Yeah,
we have a Roomba drone that can make me another Bloody Mary.
Right? Oh yeah, it's called the Jordan.
We'll take a pee break
Jordan
here at
Mamba.
some point. Yeah.
Hang
on. Okay, no, go ahead.
Yeah. So just on that, like watching people persevere through certain things that they didn't think necessarily possible, or they saw. I feel like this book really because I can get into spots where I'm like, oh shit, like what a bummer. And it's easy to get stuck in that mindset of like, I'm in this situation. And then like this book gives me hope because it's like, hey, shake it up, relax, and look at it from a different angle and then make your move, because you have to get through this regardless. And that's kind of, that wrestling mentality is just crying through it, and you're going to get through it. And like, I can be uncomfortable like nobody can out uncomfortable me. Like my kitchen. I haven't had a kitchen for 2 fucking years.
I was just gonna ask. My toes
over
are
here.
cold.
I'm thinking about making a fucking side business where I'm cooking for people. You know what I mean? Like, and I have no kitchen, so
make it work.
You know what I mean? Yeah. At some point, you just make it happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I want to go back real quick because we sort of breezed through. You talked about starting here at the jiu-jitsu gym, and one of the other qualities this book talks about is humility. Mm-hmm. So combining humility and perseverance is how you get through that initial white belt phase, because you're right. I came here knowing that my reason for starting to train was I was having too much success in life, and I was like, Jesus, I need to go be bad at something because I need to get grounded a little bit. But a lot of people come in thinking, I'm 32 years old. I've always been athletic. I'm strong. I'm just going to, I'll go up there and just kind of smash it. Like I'll pretty quickly be one of the top guys because I'm just more athletic than them. And you find out really fast that's not the case. And I think a lot of people, they don't have the humility to just get crushed for a couple of, like I'm 3 years in and I still get smashed every fucking night that I roll. And there's no way to excuse it away. You just have to stand up and be like, shake their hand and say, hey, that was really good.
I've been doing this for more than 3 years and I still get crushed.
Yeah.
It's just part of it. It's what makes it so good.
But to come humility. So I was a foreman at work. I've been an Army Ranger, CIA I've done all, every sports team I tried out for when I was a kid I made, you know what I mean? So just success after success after success. And then to walk in here and just get fucking smashed by every single person in the room, you have to have humility and you have to have perseverance, or you just won't. You'll be one of those guys who comes in, signs up for a month, and then we don't see you again after 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and it's important. And I mean, the thing is like you can get that in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be jiu-jitsu, though I am biased and believe it should be.
Yes.
There's
I think running.
Running, smoking weed, getting a panic attack. You know what I mean? Like taking mushrooms and fighting through that. That's, I mean, honest to God, if I start feeling like I'm a tough guy and all of a sudden I have a panic attack from doing something like that, and then all of a sudden, like, I start realizing, like, I'm not shit.
You're a wet towel on the ground.
Yeah,
then.
and it's like, hey, you know what? You need to like recognize what your girlfriend does for you, and like recognize these things, because I'll forget it.
Yeah.
And then something like that goes down, and it's like, oh, you know what? I really need to like ground myself and understand, like, this is not who you should be.
Yeah.
You know, and have the humility and be able to admit fault and wrongs, and that is something that helps, because it's like, oh, I'm not good at this.
Yeah.
I don't like smoking weed because of that. And it's not, it is almost like it's a challenge, right? Like it's not and some people like look at it and they go like, what are you talking about? It feels good. Every single time I've done it, it's like, oh fuck. Oh fuck. And then I have to sit there and think about it and go like, you know, fight through the anxiety of like, everybody here like is judging me about this, and like, who am I? And like, it really like rips apart like what I am about and who I am, and like what people think of me, and does it matter? And I go through all this crazy shit, and people are like, that was just some weed. And I'm like, it's not just weed for me, dude. It's not.
Jesus.
Dude, it gets gnarly for me, and that's almost every single time.
Okay.
And so people talk about ayahuasca and how it's like, smoke some fucking sativa and we'll have the same conversation. And I think that's like, you know, kind of goes into that quantum physics kind of thought process of like, you know, I can have a broken bone and you can have a scratch, but it's the same kind of pain, because that's the worst that's happened to
That
you.
felt,
So for me, that's where it's at, and it's like, holy shit, like this is next level for me, and I can't imagine doing more than that, but I'm so sensitive to it that it really, really messes with me, which is why I don't do it very often. But that's just like what I gain from it is that deep of like that kind of like, holy shit, you know. Not very often have I been like, this is fun.
Deep revelations and a panic attack.
Oh yeah.
Holy
yeah.
shit. All right.
Yeah. I mean, and growing up, I used to get panic attacks all the time, right? So
right?
like, just out of nowhere. Every night.
Oh shit.
Every night I'd have a panic attack, and I'd like, to the point where I have to look at my fingers and I'd be like, look, they're turning white because I'm not getting oxygen to my body. Like,
wow.
I'm not able to breathe.
Jeez.
And I'm breathing and I'm not going to die, but it's like, I think I'm going to die. And that was every fucking night from like, I don't know, first or second grade up until junior high.
Jesus.
And then it was just like, fuck. So like, that is beneficial in the fact that like, I can be uncomfortable. Very, very uncomfortable, and stay there. But I don't necessarily want to put myself there. But I know I can function in a lot of different fucking uncomfortable ways.
Yeah.
So there's that.
Well, that was something in the book. It's kind of how to just, I mean, it's not how to operate uncomfortably. It's that there's going to be moments in life that are uncomfortable, and that you need to realize it's part of life, and there could be opportunities there. And it kind of makes me think of a thought experiment I heard a long time ago. Like, if you had a Buddhist in a Nazi concentration camp, could you still be happy? Do you have strong enough will of your mind? Like this book we read where it's like, hey, man, this stuff is only happening at the moment. Like that guy that went to jail in the book, and he's like, hey, man, you can take this. You
Take naps, read books.
Yeah, but he's
Sounds
like
a party.
You're not going to take my dignity.
Yeah.
You can take my freedom. You can put me in the cell. You can throw me in the...
Hurricane Carter.
Yeah. And you can do all these things, but I'm still going to have respect. I'm still going to be me. You still don't get the right to put your hands on me and stuff. And so it's like, it makes me think of what can you truly achieve with your mind? If you were in a concentration camp and people were dying all around you, what would it take to actually be happy? Could you look at that situation and say, hey, there's opportunity in this somehow?
Oh boy.
I mean, I think that's a skill and it takes books like this or mentors to kind of coach it.
Yeah.
Or just having an outlook on life.
Yeah.
Few people have an outlook on life that's so profound that they don't need to have a book, and that's why books have been made
how
for
you share ideas.
Yes, right. But like, and it's special because there's some people, and that's there are ideas that need to be shared through book. It's impressive that is what's been passed on for so many years, and it's still something that happens constantly. Like that's something that hasn't changed. Like the books have been like ideas have been put in books, and those have been passed down as long as there's been written language, even on caves
Or
Clay tablets.
before written language, when there was just pictures.
Yeah. And it's just like, and that's something that is not unique to us. It is unique to human.
Yeah.
Like, and we can share that all the way down, going like, hey, this is a good thing that like we better figure out a way to pass this to the next lineage.
Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about before as far as like evolution. So books are kind of that. It's pushing these ideas, right? I mean, in a certain way, maybe not evolution in like a physical way, but I mean, we're passing down.
Well, it's propagating into the next generation.
Yeah, and then they're going to take it
dies.
and change it and change it and change it and change
Yeah.
it.
Well, what do they call it? Like accumulate, or not accumulated knowledge, but like maybe that is the right word.
Yeah, that is. Yeah,
Okay.
building off of old technologies on new technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Other people, basically, we're talking about not being afraid to fail and make mistakes. It's people writing down what worked for them so that you can sort of bypass some of their mistakes and not have to start
from
scratch with experimentation, right?
Yeah. So that's going to, the crabs that learn how to hold sticks to poke sharks, like you were saying.
Dolphins.
Dolphins, whatever, maybe those dolphins end up, sharpening their fucking noses and getting ready to
Gets a nose job.
Well, grinding into stuff to make it callous, and now they go, we got to go grind our nose into sand to make it callous, so these little sticks don't fuck us up. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, you get a bunch of callous nosed dolphins out there. But like that's something that we do with books. It's like, hey, in order to do this, you need to think about it like this, and with the stoicism stuff and just in the very beginning with stories that they pass through these books, and like the king putting a note and money underneath a big boulder in the middle of a fucking road.
See who moves it.
And people just like, hey, you know what, I need to move this, and it'll help me and it'll help everybody else. Like, do the hard thing. Don't just go around it. Oftentimes that ends up being the proper and right thing to do. And also sometimes
I was just to say, sometimes the new way around.
Yeah.
But there's a flip side to that, which is that the new path around can lead to some sort of advantage that you didn't know existed there before.
Because your perspective changes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think so. It just goes to show that opportunity is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, opportunity is just, that's why, like, if someone's kind of a failure, or you got like a family friend or someone like that, and they're kind of a loser,
it'll never work. That'll never do.
But everyone always says the same thing. They're like, it's so sad because he had potential. Yeah. And what is potential? Potential is opportunity, right? So if you're looking throughout the world and opportunity is everything, then you have to understand that this book kind of hits on it. Just try everything, do everything, never quit. This road's closed, but that one's open, new opportunity. And if you don't seize opportunity, like they're saying with the Steve Jobs thing, or no, it was Rockefeller. And like people want to give him investment money, and he's like, this isn't the right time to do it. I'm going to wait for another thing. It's like you're looking at these, there's not an opportunity now, but there's going to be one tomorrow or the day after that. And it's just really being open to what is an opportunity, and also seeing how many opportunities there are constantly being thrown out. And if you kind of notice that, it's like, well, now it's kind of your fault for not taking action.
Yeah. Jen and I read some stat a few years back, and I don't know how they quantified this, but they said that most people will dismiss, you'll have 4 or 5 kind of ideas of something you want to do in a day, and you'll dismiss all of them within like 40 seconds.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, oh, no, I can't do that.
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Oh, this would be so much fun, or this would be so successful. And then you go, oh, yeah, but, the paperwork or the cost to start it up or blah, 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 blah.
And you didn't even try. You might have had the best day doing something, and you didn't even try. And that's what I find, like, there's a stat, like S&P 500 business owners, I think it's 90% of them have gone bankrupt. But it's like, what is that? They're trying to just make something happen. Opportunity. Let's go with this. It failed. Let's go with this. It failed. Let's go with this. It failed. Well, I know this failed, that failed, that failed. New educated guess. Let's go with this. One thing happens, and you have the iPhone.
Well, that's what they talk about in this book, though. There's a portion of it where they're talking about tech companies and how they have the minimum viable product, and they launch that
so they can
because they
just let it fail.
Let it fail if it fail often and early. So you're taking less of a hit, but you're trying things out and seeing what the market wants.
There's one thing I didn't like about that, and that was one of the points of I think that might have been the only point of the book I didn't like, is that idea of like, well, let's just do the minimum in case it fails. I don't like that, and because I think that I've learned more from failure than from success because it sticks in my craw. I'm like, fuck. Yeah. I fucked this up, and I know the mistakes I made now, and it's like it bothers me so much that I'll never forget it. And so those lessons are, they are burned in.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily know that they're saying like fail in the sense of like we're gonna put this out and fail on purpose, but it's like we're gonna put this out, and if it doesn't make it doesn't mean we're gonna give up. It means that's what we're gonna launch to the people. And then we'll make adjustments, but we're still behind the scenes, still working, but we're putting forth a product to get it going.
Yeah,
and then
we're still building. We're looking for overnight success, and if it doesn't get overnight success, we'll just let it close. Which, I get the business
pivot
model
to make it work, because you're doing the same thing with your company, right? With Training Northwest, you're going out and you're going to go, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. How am I going to market this? And then you were paying for ads, right? You started paying for ads, and then like it wasn't necessarily working.
No, the only marketing I've ever done is this podcast and going on Greg's and business cards. And I guess I have paid a little. We're talking less than $100 for some social media.
Yeah, and then
marketing.
It didn't seem to work for you.
I have no idea, because social media is such a.
Like and subscribe, guys.
Yeah.
Let us know. Let us know.
Yeah, but
leave a comment.
What he was saying about that, I think also it's like, in the eyes of this book, it's better to put something out there and see what happens than to never do anything at all.
Sure.
So if some of those tech companies are like, maybe it's not the best, I
just don't like the notion of half-assing it. In case it fails.
Oh, no. I agree.
I say
agree
give it
with
your
you.
full effort. And if it fails, it fails, and you're going to feel bad about it. But because you gave it the full effort, you're going to feel really bad when it fails.
Yeah.
And that's what really causes that lesson to burn in.
I feel what you're saying. I didn't think that that's what they meant by it. I thought they were like, we're going to give everything we got to it, and then as soon as we have something that will work for this product, as soon as we have anything that's like, this is what it is, we're going to fucking throw it out there, and we're going to keep trying to develop behind it. But we're going to see what customers want from it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we're going to make our changes based on what the company wants and kind of have that lead where we're going. But we are going to continue with this project.
Yeah.
That's what I thought they were trying to say. I didn't necessarily think they were like, oh, fuck it, we're going to try something else. Pet tracking.
I just feel like all these tech startups are like, it's get rich quick schemes.
Yeah.
And if they don't get rich quick, then they just walk away.
Yeah, I
think that's kind of tech, though, because tech is so aggressive and fast moving. If something hits or something put out there and it doesn't hit, it's usually not scrapped.
Already dead then.
Yeah. It's usually reformatted and turned into something else. Instagram's been Facebook, MySpace, Vine.
One of my favorite memes is like, you got to respect Facebook's range. It went from like a way to find your ex-girlfriends from high school to like and then the way you connect with family, blah blah blah, to now it's where you find used furniture.
yeah, pretty much.
Fucking wild.
Yeah, I think tech's interesting though, because they use so many examples, and I think it is like the speed at which tech happens is much more innovative than modern bread making skills compared to old bread making skills. Like just the nature of it growing and its complexity. I think tech is used, and I've from self-help to philosophy to a lot of these type of books, tech is always used because the growth is so extreme, it's so new, and I think it's kind of captivating. And so I feel you'll get a lot of tech models and stuff like that kind of correlate between these two things, because that's striking while the iron is very much, a Silicon Valley in making it happen. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why you see like these Google execs and these YouTube execs that are into this mindfulness and these types of ideas of like, how can we try harder and be better? I mean, don't get me wrong, they've got their negatives too, but I do feel you feel this a lot more from tech than being like, we're a concrete company, let's innovate. They're like, we pour concrete.
We're all going to meditate before we pour the slab.
Yeah, exactly.
Not fucking happening.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying there. But because you're just trying to keep up with technology.
Keep up with
and
technology.
It's so fast.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that's part of the reason why I always like fall back and I go, I just really like knives. I really like sharp shit and like, that, because it's like,
if there's something hatchet has not changed.
Yeah, there's something special about something that's so old that was so perfect that we're still using it. Yeah. And there's something about those things and like really putting effort into that and not necessarily innovating, but becoming a master.
Perfecting.
Flawless.
To try and gain expertise in something that's like, I've been wrestling for fucking 28 years. No. 29 years, right? That's
how okay, Jordan, let's do a little math. How old are you?
33.
Subtract 4.
Yeah.
Equals?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
28.
Okay. Oh, damn it.
October.
Years.
Yeah. So, I mean, whatever. So that just thinking about that, right? And I'm still kind of doing it and I fucking am still learning shit.
Yeah.
And still like, and it's like, okay, this is a lifelong endeavor of like trying to get something and like then try and pass it down and in a consumable way and things that I have seen work.
But that's also what makes it fascinating, is the idea that you can never perfect it. So you're never going. I used to say with mountain bike, the day I lost interest in mountain bike racing was the day I won a race, because I was like, okay, well,
I did it.
Yeah. And
what now?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And mountain biking is the same way, like downhilling, where you'll never have a perfect run. And if you ever did have a perfect run, I would probably lose interest in it the next day. Because okay, well, we did it.
You see that guy who won the downhill, whatever, like the U.S. Open or whatever the fuck, with a broken chain?
Oh, yeah. That was years ago.
Yeah, it was cool to see. Like,
There's been a couple of like World Cup runs where they broke their chain and just threw, but it actually
less drag.
Let's talk about mindset. Something bad just happened. What's the opportunity there? Now you have to corner everything perfect. You have to pay really close attention to your braking points and your cornering speed and carrying momentum through rough sections. And because you don't have this crutch of the pedals where you can throw a few strokes in a smooth spot and gain a little speed, you have to
charge hard.
Yeah. It's actually not that. You actually have to kind of relax a little bit into it, and it's all about managing energy through a corner, through roots, through big chunky rocks. You have to manage that energy perfectly and keep as much velocity as you can at all times. It's everything, man. I think this, the one point from this book is that literally anything in life that happens to you, you can back off it a little bit and go, okay, what's the opportunity right here, right now?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and that it makes me feel, it gives me hope. Like I said, going into a rough patch of life, or looking at like the economy. Oh my God, the economy's going to crash. It's like, well, what are the opportunities?
Yeah.
They're here.
They're here.
They're amongst us. That's never changing. Yeah. There's always going to be an opportunity of growth.
Yeah.
What do I need to do to capture it?
Yeah.
And where is it going to come from? And being open-minded and not pigeonholing yourself into like, I can only do this. Like,
it might not be economical opportunity. It might be that
social. It might be, hey, I don't have this stress to worry about this. I mean, I look at like my early 20s.
5 years from now, we might all be living on Kozak's farm, hunting deer and rabbits and shit, and growing a garden and hanging out and smoking pot in the evenings, and like
maybe
this is so much better.
Not Jordan.
Exactly. Jordan
Two of the three.
Mike and I will be smoking.
I'll be growing it though.
Well, Jordan has a panic attack.
I can certainly roll joints for you guys. Yeah, maybe that's my spot. It's like
Farnsworth Bentley over here.
Guys. Look at me.
Cross joint.
We'll have $0 between us, but we'll be sitting there saying to each other, "This is so much better than sitting in traffic to go to a 9 to 5 every day."
Yeah.
Understanding what you have, and that's why, like, I think the more you have that mindset, the more resilient you become to life and things, and that I think. That's kind of what's been shared amongst this group of friends we've kind of gained over the last couple of years through this jiu-jitsu gym and everywhere else. Like everybody kind of shares that like it's going to be okay. Life's tough, but we're tougher and it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Not only is it tough, but it's like accepting that it's tough. Like
leaning into
that you
it.
Can't perfect it.
Yeah, but it's supposed to be chaos and tough. Like most people, if you see a baby deer get eaten by a cougar, most people are like, that poor baby deer. You know, it was just this cute little thing. But no one ever goes and they think about that mama cougar. And that mama cougar has cubs. And it has little people too. And it needs to feed its people. Unfortunately, she can't eat a bunch of grass and throw it up and these little cubs eat it. She has to kill another animal and bring it home, right? And so
that's because the youth is getting soft.
But I mean, that's what I mean when I say like this
victim culture.
Yeah, but it goes into that is evolution. That is life. We have to accept that there are gonna be very unpretty and unpleasant things in our life, and actually
change
of those
perspective though, because that's the most pleasant thing for that cougar.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
How beautiful is that cougar has been able to fucking stalk a deer and all of a sudden pounce on it. And
its cubs are going to bed with a full belly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what we will think of a lot of times is like challenge or strife or chaos or a problem. It's like, nah, man, this is the way the world really is. The world is complex. It's chaos. It's dangerous. It's wonderful. It's sad. It's happy. It's anger. It's all this stuff. You know, so when you start to think in terms of like the world is going to exist whether you want it to or not, and good things are going to happen and bad things are going to happen. But if you can understand that the world isn't for or against you, it just kind of is. Well, it's like now we're kind of going into a Zen philosophy that you're just along for the ride. This life we live is a river, and we're just in it. And you can fight against those waves and try and swim against them, but the current's going to constantly pull you downriver. So what can you do? Well, you can swim to the left side, go to the bank, or to the right side, or swim down. But there's no way you're ever going to be able to swim back up that river.
Yes.
And so these kind of lessons.
You hit on one of my favorite passages from the book, which is when he's introducing sort of the notion of willpower. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people think that willpower is that swimming upriver. Like, by God, I'm gonna exhaust myself and I'll eventually die in this river, but I have the willpower to fight this current forever and ever and ever. And what he says, the true will is quiet humility, resilience, and flexibility. The other kind of will, the swimming up current, is weakness disguised by bluster and ambition.
Yeah.
So, and that was one of the ones that I was like, oh shit, I'm going to circle that page and come back to it, because we're talking about endless opportunity, and I think one of the important points is you can't like. Yes, you should always be looking for opportunity, and you should always be grinding away and scratching away. But there comes a point where you have to realize you're trying to swim upriver, and you need to be swimming to one bank or the other and find there's opportunity on the banks.
Yeah.
It may not be the one that you had set in your mind. Like you've got this golden vision up, in your mind's eye, and you're just, I'm swimming for it. You got to go find the opportunity that you can reach.
Yes. Agreed.
Yeah. Being willing to pivot,
Yeah.
But again, it's one of those things where you get so set on this is what it is. I'm going to get to this goal.
Yeah.
And
my kids are learning to play basketball. And so when I go play one-on-one with them in the driveway, I shade them to their right because they can only dribble with their right hand. And they're like, Dad, you're cheating. I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm giving you the entire left lane.
Yeah.
You just won't dribble with your left hand.
Yeah.
And I said, until the day I die, every single time we come out here and play in the driveway, until you learn to drive with your left hand and take the opportunity that I'm opening up for you, I'm going to shade you to your right. And that's, you know what I mean? It's jiu-jitsu, it's basketball, it's literally everything.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity somewhere there, but if you're so determined to dribble with your right hand, you may never be able to get it.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, having a bigger picture, like the big picture, the perspective, understanding, and this is what all of us, you, me, everyone in the world, people listening to this podcast, like we were saying earlier, it's like, or here's a perfect example. If like when you're young, when I was younger, I went through a couple breakups, and it's like, it's just so devastating. I don't know what to do. And friends are like, dude,
Find another one.
yeah, you're young, you have money, you have a job. You got a couple good looks, but not all the best. So, like, let's, and it's all perspective based.
Yeah.
And being in that moment is what sucks it out of you. That's why when someone has, like, a conversation or a problem, and the person that's having it, they just can't figure it out. And they tell their friend, and their friend's like, this is simple as shit.
Yeah.
Because they're not involved with it.
They can't see the forest through the woods,
Yeah.
the trees, or whatever they
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
It's for sure. I mean, I have those conversations with buddies all the time. I have those conversations with you guys all the time. You know what I mean? And it's just like, and you guys are like, you fucking idiot. And it's like, oh yeah, like fuck, and because you get so caught up on your goal, and it's easy to, not want to pivot or make that adjustment. And I think that's really important, as to have a tribe of people around you that are looking out for your best interest, or trying to look out for your best interest, whether it be a little bit misguided or not. You can trust that they care enough about you to tell you, hey, look at the opportunity in front of you.
Yeah.
And it might not be the easy thing to tell you, but hey, just so you know, this is something that you might not be, a blind spot that you might not be seeing because you're concentrating on your goal.
Well, and also you guys don't have kids, but that's a lot of parenthood right there. And we've gotten lost in this special snowflake mentality where we're only supposed to tell our kids, happy, positive things. Like, it's okay to like pull them back, be like, all right, that was a really fucking bad idea.
Yeah.
And now you need to, basically fix yourself. Like, the amount of times I have to grab my 11-year-old son and be like, I mean, we're talking 5-6 times a day. Be like, hey, dumbass, what you're doing right now is stupid. So slow down, breathe, think about it, because he is that swim upriver type. Like, he just has that hard-headed mentality, which I probably did when I was young too.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's like,
you probably see a lot more in him if you look at it than you realize.
a lot more.
Like, there's a lot
see a
more
lot
of
of
you in him.
himself.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no. Yeah,
Yeah.
It more and more. It's like Jen points it out all the time, and I'm like, "Fucking shut up, woman."
Yeah, and let me tell all the parents out there, don't be afraid to pivot and hit your kids.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Not in public.
There goes our daycare sponsor.
Kindercare.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I've never struck my kids, but I think that it's only
I'm
because,
joking.
well, I think they need it, to be honest with you.
Well, they need to understand.
They are living in a consequence-free environment.
Yes.
And the way my son will talk to Jen and I sometimes, it's like, dude, if I had spoken to my dad like that in 1991, he would have punted me. he literally would not have stopped kicking me all the way off our property.
Yeah.
Like, not metaphorically kicked me off the property. He would have literally physically kicked me over and over and over again as he's rolling me down the driveway to the end. You know what I mean? And be like, and if you fucking come back onto the property, you better fix your attitude towards your mother and I.
Yeah. I mean, I certainly remember moments growing up where it's like, don't ever talk to your mother like that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, oh shit,
I was an angel.
No, dude, not me. I mean, I was a great kid. My parents are lucky to have me.
See, my parents did psychological warfare because I lived with my dad and my stepmom, and I remember if like I didn't do something right or I got like bad grades, they'd make me wear like dorky clothes, instead of like the clothes I loved and I had. They're like, you got to wear these corduroy pants and like these shoes, and I was like, that I wish it would just hit me,
dude. I grew up in Omak, where it is. You guys have seen Napoleon Dynamite, right?
Yeah.
The reason I was laughing when I watched that movie is I was like, oh, I lived this growing up, where there was a J.C. Penney and a thrift store.
Yeah,
and so everybody was wearing, remember No Fear t-shirts?
No Fear and Mossimo.
Yeah, that's what was sold at JCPenney. And then half of us whose parents wouldn't pay for clothing, we just had like t-shirts with like fucking Mickey Mouse on them. That's what the thrift store had.
Yeah.
From whatever people's vacation came back.
Tobin's got a shirt, World's Fair in 1948.
Exactly.
Like, hey, nice, looking good.
Yeah, that's vintage.
I can remember even like, I remember my dad coming home and like, hey, I found a t-shirt at the lake here. Like, what?
Yeah, you're welcome. It should fit you. We'll cut the sleeves off.
It looked about your size. Somebody left it on the dock.
Yeah, we had a little bit of that mental, warfare going on at home. Like when growing up, when I was a little kid, every business building, all that like industrial stuff.
Yeah.
All of them were fucking adoption agencies. And my mom did not hesitate to pull in there and tell us. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I remember one time we pulled up to this spot and it was just like, who knows what, company it was, but it was just, and she pulls in and she's like, this is it. It's the adoption agency. I've had it. Get out. Yeah. And I remember jumping out and I was like, fine, me and my mullet just fucking walking straight to that door. And and my brother jumping out and grabbing me and like, no, if he leaves, I leave, and it was just like, brothers are sticking together. Fuck you, we're out, and then, we're crying. We're going to get it. It's going to be fine, and then,
no,
nothing but my fucking Jean Co jeans and, Vans. We're out. But I mean, things like that, you look back and you go like that. Oh yeah.
It's funny.
Yeah. It's, me and my brother are close,
Yeah.
But you see also like the length you can push parents, and they just like where they start going, and it's like you're losing your minds.
Yeah.
Like looking back on it, my parents were young when they had me. They were in their early 20s, and just like it was kids raising kids.
Yeah.
When you look back on it, and it's like some of the shit that they did was like, that's a little wild, but I wouldn't change it. The lessons learned, I don't play with matches. I'll tell you that. I learned that lesson. Thanks, Ma.
Oh, shit. All right. I have to pee.
All right, let's take
call
a break.
Be right.
All right, and we are back. So I kind of let it go there right before the break because I figured it would be a good way to come back. But one of the points made kind of toward the end of the book that I also really like is everybody needs to get a little more comfortable with the notion that life is temporary, because people conduct themselves as though they're going to live forever. And once you get used to the idea that it's all temporary, so none of it really matters anyway, that can really free you up to whatever it is you're wanting to pursue in life. And you're coming up with all these reasons why you can't. A lot of times it's like, well, I can't afford it right now, or I have so many other responsibilities. When you realize that this is just a temporary situation, and whatever that thing is that you're wanting to go after, that's really what you should be doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it helps put into perspective what really is important. I mean, I think one of the lines, I forget who said it, if it was the author or he said he was quoting someone, but I've heard it a million times, but it was, this too shall pass, and that's talking about...
That was Gandalf. Oh, never mind. You shall not pass.
You shall not pass.
My bad.
But I mean, I think that goes for you as a person as well, and that you need to realize that even as much as emotions and situations are temporary, so are you, and that when you view life as that you're not here forever, it kind of puts more of a perspective or even a fire under your ass, or maybe you're wanting to enjoy this life a bit richer or more, or dedicate yourself harder to it than to just be a bypasser in the world. It's better to maybe understand it's temporary and take the helm or the reins, or try and figure out a way in this temporary life to get maximum satisfaction out of it.
And that's an interesting thought. Like when you, I'm not a parent. I want to be, but
I have two.
Yeah.
I mean, like
Perfect.
free to a good home.
Perfect. But that's one of the
Finish that kitchen and they're all yours.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go. That's one of the thought processes behind it's because you want to have a kid that is, I don't want to say subservient, but like they know their place in the home. And too many kids are running around these days that like think that they're running the house that they're living in, and it's just not the case.
The kids
have to
are
follow,
running the house,
Yeah.
and that's why it's chaos. It's out of order.
But you need to be able to set direction, right? And you need to be able to take direction before you can give direction. Yeah. And that's why, like, you look at like leaders that are solid leaders. They kind of come up through the ranks. They don't come down from the other side. You know, they've been through it. They've taken the reign. You know, they've worked their way into a position of authority as opposed to given a position of authority. So a lot of the time,
isn't there a stat that most inherited businesses fail? Like, your dad starts a business and he runs it very successfully, and then they pass it off to a son, and then it just collapses within 5 to 10 years.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, actually, and not necessarily inherited, but like how many businesses have been passed around, like the biggest businesses in the world so far, how many of them have like taken new CEOs and like are still so big that they just don't fail. But I mean, we're talking about very few businesses are that big.
Yeah.
But the ones that are, they kind of get a new CEO. You hear is announced, and all of a sudden they're
like
still
a Boeing or
that. And it was actually Boeing that I was thinking about, because I was helping a buddy clean out the lower part, and his brother was a engineer for Boeing. So he had a bunch of like, Boeing stuff and like different, blueprints and shit like that. And I was like looking at it, I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But then I started thinking, like, how old's Boeing, and how many people, my whole life, I've always heard like Boeing. How many times has that been like passed around as far as like CEOs and ownership or whatever? And like, it's still kind of going. Granted, they have to make adjustments and stuff like that. But anyway, I forgot that was a sidetrack to what we were talking about. Sorry,
I interrupted you.
No, where were we going before that?
No clue.
Because I just had a good point, and I messed it up because I went down that.
Damn it.
What the fuck?
We were talking about getting more comfortable with the idea that getting more comfortable with
the
Parenthood,
parents. So parenting.
The house being out of order.
The house being out of order, but like learning how to follow direction before you can give direction, and as a parent, I would imagine you want your kid to be independent and be able to do things and make their own decision. But like, I remember growing up and feeling like I couldn't make my own decision. Like, I need to follow direction, and I was taught to fucking follow direction to authority, and like whether it be the cops or this or that. And then like I was very like, no, this is how you do things by the book, and everything works out when you're honest and you're cooperative, and everything always works out. And it wasn't until later in life when I started like looking at like laws, going like, well, wait, and questioning them. I had a and not even laws, but just like rules. I had been working at a bar and grill in Kirkland, and there was a guy out on our patio, and he wanted to move the tables out on the patio, and it was kind of like set up for maximum yield of people.
Right.
And if you take two tables that sit 4 and collapse them together, now you have a table that'll sit 6 and not 8, right?
Yeah.
And he wanted to move tables together, and like obviously it's making that party come in, and but that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to move a table around, and I don't remember if it was for more people to come or he just wanted to like move the table into a different area. I don't remember exactly the situation, but I was told to tell him no, it's fire code. And I was like, okay. So I just thoughtlessly went out there and was like, well, no, I can't let you move that because it's fire code. Because I'm just following direction from my fucking boss.
Yeah. There are so many people in society functioning that way.
Yeah. Well, and that was my awakening, right? It was like I went to this guy, looked him in the face, and just said what I was told. And I was like, sorry, but you can't move that table. It's fire code. And he stopped and he looked at me and he was like, you need to start thinking about what the fuck they're telling you. And I was just like, I'm an 18-year-old kid, and I was just like, this guy's a prick.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until, and it stuck with me. That little interaction stuck with me. It's one of those small things that people would probably forget about, because I was like, that guy was a prick. And then like I started thinking about it, and I was like, that guy was fucking right. Like, oh, like in letting him being an asshole to me pass. But it was like, oh, I was just following direction, and really there's no fucking, we're talking about a 3-foot handrail next to him, and he wants to move a table, and I told him no because it was fire code. They're sitting on a patio. What the fuck am I talking about?
Yeah.
And then him saying that, I was like, you need to start thinking about like what people are telling you, and not just because they're telling you.
Teaching people to think critically is like, I'm struggling with it right now with my kids. How do I teach them to think critically?
And still,
but at the same time, like, life is busy, and it's like, hey, motherfucker, you need to go clean your room.
Yeah, you need to pay attention to what I'm telling you.
Because like, I'm trying to teach you to think critically, but at the same time, there's also like, because I told you to.
Yeah.
And I'm your dad. And I don't know how you live both.
The amount of times I was told that.
I think I
told you to.
Yeah, that's kind of life, though, right? Isn't it?
No, because I told you to from a parent is an absolutely acceptable answer, because sometimes you don't have enough time to explain it all. But like I said, man, teaching your kids to think critically is so important. And my older boy in particular is just he's such an ornery little shit, like resistant and argues. And every once, I get so fed up with him, but then every once in a while I'm like, but he's going to lead the resistance when I'm gone. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because that's his mentality. Yeah. It's like, all right, just don't kill him yet. Don't, just wait. He'll be out of the house in 10 years. And, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, again, trying to find a new way in which to like communicate with him, that's kind of like, how do you take the energy he has and understand, like, this is the energy he has and we can work with it. Yeah. How do we make it functional for everybody to where he feels empowered and still understands the role in which he is in?
Yeah. And we try to give him a lot of responsibility, sort of, to make his own decisions, which works. Like, if you're listening to this and you haven't tried this with your kids, do it. Because one lesson I have learned is the more responsibility I give them, the more responsible they are. So they take it very seriously when you're like I remember the first time, I bought him a BB gun for his 7th birthday. And
it's a hell of a dad.
Right? And
that's awesome.
Explained all, the big 4 safety rules, took him out in the yard, had him practicing, and for a while I would only let him shoot it when I was there with him. Mm-hmm. And then there came a point where he's like, can I just go out in the backyard by myself? And I was like, you know what? You've showed me that you have all these safety rules memorized. You've never screwed up once when I'm there watching. I was like, you know what? I'll just look out the window every once in a while and check on you. And every once in a while I'd look out the window, and I could see that he was taking it very seriously and being very like deliberate about how he handled the BB gun. And pretty soon, like, a week or two later, it's like, yeah, just I don't care. You know your rules. You're okay, go ahead. And then that evolved into like a pellet gun, and allowing him to take off on my parents' 200 acres with the pellet gun by himself and go try to shoot squirrels or whatever, Yeah. And again, every once in a while I'd be out like working or whatever, or doing my own thing in the orchard, and I'd just kind of see him through the trees. So I'd take a minute to kind of spy on him a little bit and make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to be doing to be safe with the gun. And he was always on it. So it's
how good does that feel, though?
Oh, really good. Yeah.
Like yeah, you did that.
Yeah. Well, and then now, I mean, even in like the suburb where we live, like he's got a pretty big like range where he's allowed to travel. Basically, like he's got his bike, and he'll be like, "Okay, I'm going. I've got
nothing bigger than a cat."
If it's got a collar on it, you can't shoot it. No. We do not let him take the air rifle out in the suburb. But like we'll let him ride his bike to the gas station to get a treat or whatever, and he's allowed to take off with his friends and go to the high school and play soccer and whatnot. So we allow him a lot of free reign, so that he can kind of feel like he's in charge of his life a little bit. It's just when he starts back talking Jen and I a lot, that's when we have to sort of like smash him a little bit.
And it's one of those things, because I remember having where you feel like you've done something and like the only thing you can do is lean into it.
Yeah.
And just like the feeling in your heart is like, I'm just so pissed. Fuck it. And just, and I bet he has that feeling.
Oh,
I
sure
bet he
does.
like, he feels it and just like,
I know I'm wrong, but I'm fucking.
Yeah, but I'm in it anymore.
Yeah, stubborn. He is stubborn as fuck.
Yeah. So it's like, I remember doing that and just like, I smashed some Legos and broke them. And I was like, I'll never do this again. that was my like understanding. Like I got sent to my room. I get up and I just start breaking shit and I stomp on like this Lego and I actually like break the plastic in half.
Yeah.
And so the Lego was no longer a Lego.
My Star Wars X-Wing fighter is never going back together again.
So this is broken and my heel's all fucked up because I stomped on the Lego, and I'm up in my bed. I'm like, and then the adrenaline starts going down and I'm like, my foot hurts.
I've fallen. I've probably fallen down my stairs 5 to 8 times at 4:00 in the morning because I stepped on a fucking Lego.
Little fucking 5-year-old landmine.
Fortunately, every time I've managed to slide like on my butt, like feet first down on my butt. I haven't pitched forward yet, but I've fallen down on my fucking stairs because of my kids' Legos.
You're getting home alone every time you wake up early in the morning.
God.
Fuck. Yeah. Oh man, I couldn't imagine. That, at least that's on carpet, right? Like that on hardwood. It's fuck.
Yeah.
Feels like you're going through the bones.
Fucking things.
Yeah, I remember being a kid. I had a super messy room and Legos everywhere. And same thing. You think your room was clean and there was one Lego buried deep in the carpet and you'd step on it like a landmine. Ah, Jesus! You go, take a knee, hit the ground. My foot!
Run in real quick. And I'm down.
We used to, all right, I'll tell a quick story. My brother used to jump and swing from the coat rack, like the big pole that you hang all your shirts or whatever in your closet. When he was like 5 or 6, he would jump and swing from his. And right below where he would swing was a big box of Legos, like all the spare Legos. You know what I mean? So one day we went in there, me and my friend, and we put lotion all over that bar.
Oh, my God.
The next time,
is this an older or younger brother?
Younger brother.
Oh,
So
Jesus.
the next time he jumped up there to swing on that bar, he slipped off and fell into the giant box of Legos, and we heard him just like, ah!
Oh, man. Older brothers are always good for something, huh? Yeah. My dad and my uncle tell me this story about back in the day, they had like a buggy for a stroller, right? You know what I'm talking about, like four wheels, and it kind of bounced back and forth, and like a little carriage. And they're in their cul-de-sac, and their cul-de-sac was like super crowned, right? Like it's meant for some heavy downpour.
Yeah.
And they're up there, and my uncle Dan has got this buggy, and he's got his little brother, who I think is 5 years younger or maybe 6 years younger, in a stroller. So he's maybe a year and a half old, and he's kind of got him in that buggy, and he's kind of bouncing him around and whatnot. And my dad's standing there, and so they're maybe 8 or 9, and he maybe a little younger than that anyway. The neighbor kid starts talking to him or something, and he loses concentration, lets go of this fucking buggy, and he starts rolling down the hill towards the yard, and down the cul-de-sac. And he's like, "Oh shit!" And my uncle goes chasing after it and can't get to it, and it hits the curb, and slingshots youngest Uncle George out of the fucking out of the stroller into the yard. And I mean, we're talking an infant just getting whoa, and they said that like the buggy was like bouncy, right? So it just like catapulted him out into the yard, and he fucking lands in the yard, and they run up and scoop him up, and he's like trying to get him to quit crying because they're like, oh,
at least he's crying.
Dad's gonna fucking kick our ass, like, oh fuck. And then he puts him back, and he's like playing with them and like bringing him around and kind of taking him away from the house a little bit, so like the tears can't be heard. And then my dad's like, why the fuck didn't you catch that? Like, I can't believe you didn't catch that. Like, you didn't even like. And he was like, it went faster. Like, see, watch here, try. And my dad lets it go, and he's like, I'll catch it. And then, like, my dad couldn't catch it. And all of a sudden, they launch his ass back into the yard.
They put the baby back in it? Oh, my God.
They launched him into the yard again, and they pick him up, and they're like, oh, fuck. And then they take him back. Yeah. What? And they're just like, older brothers.
All right, one more. Just see if we get 2 out of 3. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, but I mean, that's older brother. That's you put lotion on the fucking pull-up bar for your brother over the top of some Legos. Yeah.
Oh man. All right, bring it back around. What we were talking about, critical thinking.
Good times. Yeah, I mean, I think there's some. Basically, what I was trying to say in the very beginning of that was, as a parent, that I'm not. But as a parent, I would imagine you want to raise your kid in a way that creates, you have authority, they understand the authority, they mind the authority, but when they go into the world, they understand, like, sometimes you're the fucking nail and sometimes you're the hammer, and you need to know when that point is, and you have to be able to, like, work around the world in that direction. You can't tell your boss to eat shit because they're wrong, but there's a certain way in which you can deal with said boss that isn't necessarily telling them to eat shit, but like, hey, let's try and
make suggestions the right way.
But not blow up because they're telling you to do something that's maybe wrong. But also, when that kid becomes a cop and they're listening to their fucking governor say some wild shit, to be able to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong, and I'm not going to do this because this is going to affect people down the line that's more important.
Yeah.
And understanding what true values are and where the true importance lies.
Yeah, and you're right on it. My goal is to teach them to make good decisions for themselves, combined with critical thinking. And going back, to earlier in the show, talking about failures, in order to teach them to make their own decisions, you kind of have to let them make their own decisions. And sometimes they're going to make bad decisions. Mm-hmm. And that's when I'm the hammer. Because like I said, when I fuck something up, that's when it really gets burned into my brain because I've tried so hard and I failed. Well, when you make a bad decision and dad drops the hammer on you, then that's sort of your like, oh, burn that one into the brain. This was a bad idea.
Well, and putting them in situations where sometimes the consequence is the hammer. That's where I was saying, like, have your kids cook dinner. Yeah. They might not be ready for it, or you can show them, like, kind of guide them through it a little bit. But then one night, have them cook dinner and have them, like, take responsibility for the entire family's meal tonight. Yeah. And there's nothing more. When you cook for somebody, you care so much about that meal, especially as a kid. Like, you care about, like, I want this to taste good. I want this to, like, work out.
I think my oldest one would make us toast with fucking butter on it, and the youngest one would try his ass off.
I bet the older one, I bet you'd be fucking blown away if you were like, you teach him a couple things on how to make stuff.
Yeah.
And then you let him do it himself. Say, hey, I bet he'd fucking want to serve everything up on a plate.
Yeah.
You know? And because
we might have to try that.
At that point, like, they're taking that responsibility, and guess what? If you did something wrong, it's not technically wrong, but you're going to find that you care more about something and you want the family to enjoy what you've made.
Yeah.
Plus, when you see positive affirmations from someone for a service or a deed you did, just reinforces that concept.
Actually, I'm going to talk to Jen about that tonight. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I think it shows them, like, I created something and people liked it. Or I did this for my family, or they did it and they were like, "Oh, that was dog shit," and like I ruined dinner.
Or I half-assed it. Now I feel bad about it.
Yeah, Yeah. Or I didn't try my hardest, or I burnt something or fucked something up. And it's like, hey, then, well, we're eating it.
So one thing that is working is he made one of these like tryout soccer teams, right? They play year round, and he's really excited about it. And so what I told him is, now when you fuck up at home, I'm not even going to talk about it. I'm just going to tell you that, well, you're going to miss whatever the next event is, whether it's a practice or a game. I'm just going to say, sorry, you're not making that one. Because at some point, if you are not showing up regularly, your coach is going to go, hey, I can't rely on you to be here, so I'm just going to have to give your spot on the team to another boy. And now it's not me who's like sort of providing the punishment. I'm just saying, you expect me to run you all over Snohomish County taking you to soccer practice. Well, when you don't help out the family at home, that it's you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. If you expect me to be on beck and call whenever there's a soccer practice or a soccer game to run you around, well, then you need to pitch in at home when we ask, and not give us a bunch of shit because we need a little help in the backyard for 2 hours.
Yeah.
And so that takes the punishment out of my hands to where it's just like, well, I'm sorry, man, you didn't help us out this week, so I can't drive you to practice.
Yeah. The concept of that, of mom's not a fucking, mom and dad aren't
Not here to
a
serve
taxi
you.
cab.
Yeah, we're not your servants.
And understanding that, I think it's lost on most kids, and I think that's kind of the issue that's
Straight
going
out of
on.
his mouth, about a year ago, he's like, "You're supposed to provide me a good childhood." And I said, sit down. Let me explain to you what I am supposed to provide for you.
Yeah.
1 meal a day and a place to sleep. And I didn't say a warm place to sleep. I didn't say it was dry.
Yeah.
Or I should say a safe place to sleep.
Yeah.
And that can be the backyard.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that 1 meal a day can be a bread with peanut butter on it.
Yeah.
And you are not entitled to 3 meals a day and fucking pantry full of snacks and us rushing you around. You know what I mean? It's like that air of self-entitlement. If you allow your kids to grow up with that, you're really fucking them up in adult life.
I think we talked about that last week, where I was blown away at my buddy's pantry and like how we were just able to get into a pantry.
It's still
like, what the fuck are you talking about?
In fact, I went home and talked to Jen about it because all the kids will come in and like just head to grab themselves some chips or whatever out of the cupboard, and I'm like, it doesn't bother me because
that's what it's there for. Yeah.
Go eat them. But at the same time, I'm like, man, do you remember? Like, and I don't think she had that experience. I guess maybe girls were different, but yeah, the same thing where it's like I wouldn't even ask for a snack. I would just hope that whichever friend's mom I was at, their mom like offered us a snack.
Yeah. When we were, I remember that, like just going fishing and being fucking just hungry as shit. And it was like, come on, open that bag of chips, please. Dad. Open that bag of chips. The food's there.
There's a bag of Doritos sitting on a picnic table, unopened.
And
can we please fucking
somebody fucking open it for the love of God, Dad? Come on,
Yeah.
I was like, fuck. Yeah. And then finally it would happen, and it was like, oh, this is the greatest. This is the greatest goddamn Dorito I've ever had. Let's keep fishing. This is good stuff. Yeah.
Oh man.
Or you go to a friend's house and they have foods that you don't have.
Oh yeah.
And then you go back home and you ask your parents to get them, and they're like, "Fuck you."
Yeah.
They'll never get them.
Sean's dad has a Costco membership. You're a real piece of shit. Look at this. They make it that big?
Yeah,
like, oh my God. But I've never seen so many M&Ms.
Yeah. I also remember even the other kids, like my friends being like, oh no, we can't get into those. Cause they knew that when they were gone, like mom's not going back to the store for 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
So if I let my friends come over here and eat all the snacks, then I'm going to be out of snacks.
Yeah.
I gotta manage this.
Yeah,
these
exactly. These heathens are over here trying to get into my Doritos.
All my buddies are trying to get my shit. I gotta tell them you're not welcome. No, dude.
Oh man.
Yeah,
all right. Well, we're getting
you can have the fucking crackers. You can't have the chips.
We're getting wildly off topic.
Wait, this isn't about the book?
I know.
Anyway.
Well, I was just gonna say, should we start wrapping this one up? Do you guys have any more thoughts on the book?
I just think The Obstacle is the Way is a good one.
It's a light read and a fast read. It's 170 pages, but it's small pages in big print, so you can burn through it really quickly. It's not like you have to dedicate 2 weeks of your life to it.
Yeah, simple concepts, and they're all powerful.
Yeah.
I think, like I said in the very beginning, I was raised in a wrestling room where coaches tend to have small sayings that are of significant use throughout life. And this is stacked full of them. So
I had football coaches that said things like, you got to be meaner than dog crap on grass.
Yeah, I mean,
and then we'd all be sitting around going, wait, what?
I had coaches,
It's like a Joe Biden phrase.
I had coaches that would tell us shit like this. Here, I'll just, one coach, he always says, life's tough, but you're tougher. And then like, when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, or the only things you can control is attitude and effort.
Yeah.
So,
But that's legit.
take control of that.
And but it's almost like you hear that so many times when you're a kid that you're like, all right, yeah, shut the fuck up. And then later, it's not until you're much older that you go, wait a minute.
I mean, I took that shit to heart instantly because I respected my coaches. I'd run through a fucking wall.
Yeah.
To this day, I'll kill somebody if my coach asked me to.
Okay.
That's not real government. I would never actually do that. This is not admitting guilt to anything that might happen in the future.
We do have 2 subscribers from the FBI.
Yeah. Hey guys.
I wish we could get more. Maybe we need to say more inflammatory shit.
There was a story of like in Oregon, there was a guy who bought a chunk of land and a gold plot or whatever they call that. And he started digging. He knew there was gold there, and more people came, and he brought his family came, and he used his life savings and bought this little bit of land, and he starts digging for gold, and then he runs out of money, and his family has to leave. So his family leaves. He's like, I'm going to keep digging. And he keeps digging, and he keeps digging, and he's like, finally one day, he's like, I just can't fucking dig anymore. I got to sell this off. I can't do it. I've lost everything. I've lost my family. I've lost my money. I've lost everything. And he sells his plot of land, and then 3 foot later, the guy he sold it to hit the biggest gold vein in Oregon State history.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a real story, but I was told that. And you know what? Guess what? I didn't fucking give up because I always thought I was 3 foot away from gold. Yeah. So don't stop.
And you never
digging.
know when you are.
And that's kind of part of the thing with all this whole story, like
we might be at 26 subscribers right now, and we're 3 feet away from
Gold
monetizing the podcast, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was that. So this book really gave me a lot of those things to think about, just like the coaches I've had for the last 29 years show me, Yeah. And so in that regard, I really enjoyed the book because you can read, a couple chapters and it gives you a few of them to think about for a long time. And then you can pick it up again, read a few more chapters, and it gives you more to think about. And you don't have to like consume the whole thing at once, like a story. You can just pick it up and kind of go through sections, and it stands on its own. Yeah. So that's kind of nice. So yeah, pick up the book. It's good to read. And it's like Tobin said, it's pretty straightforward and simple, big print, small pages. It's just up my alley. So, and I still listen to it on Audible.
Yeah. All right. Show notes here. If you guys are enjoying this podcast, like we say, share it with your friends and family, and also go to Apple or Spotify and leave us a review, please, because the more reviews we get, we're outside of this. When your show is new for 90 days, most of the hosting services, they'll sort of put it in front of people as there's, if someone's just sort of scrolling through like recent episodes of random shows, when you're a new show, they put yours toward the top of the list. Well, we're outside of that 90 days, and we've seen a dip in listenership. And so if you go and leave us a review, that helps with their algorithms. Like the more reviews we get, then obviously the more people are listening to the show and enjoying it, and it helps push it in front of a wider audience. So if, it takes 30 seconds and a few taps on your phone, just head over to Spotify or Apple and leave us a review. And that's about all I can think of.
Click that furthest star on the right.
Yeah, baby.
That's right, buddy.
Yeah.
Click 5 because there aren't 6.
Yeah. The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday.